Lorraine Elaine, the reincarnation of Isis. Now my name, Lorraine Elaine, and the name Isis are both repeating, or let's call them duplicating names. If you look, Lorraine Elaine Isis. Okay, when you see a repeating name, it's usually indicative of a personality or a spirit that lives in multiple dimensions. Now, for example, I inherited this house from my father, my parents. My father built it. Okay, now I added on this room back here. Now I live in the whole house, but I come alive in this room. This room reflects my personality. I'm able to express myself here. This is my own private world, you know, nobody else. I can do what I want and say to be myself. Now when I go in the house, the rest of the house, that's my parents' dimension. And that was a dimension I grew up in. I was born there. And it's a depressive, repressive atmosphere. Now I changed the house. I've been changing it ever since I inherited it. But there's still remnants of that. But now part of it was the culture of the time. Now if I open that door, that's another dimension. That's the outside world. And out there, they're just dimensions of dimensions of dimensions of repression and depression and everything else. I reject that. I withdrew from that world a long time ago. I'm not able to grow and thrive and be myself in that world. So I close the door as often as I can. But now I live in another dimension. I have a celestial or heavenly home. And that home is high in the Andes Mountains. I can look out the window and I can see beautiful white sandy beaches, a real pretty blue sky, and way off in the distance I see the ocean. But now if I go on the other side of the house, I look out the window and I see a wintry scene that gradually turns into the ice fields. And I distinctly remember, I woke up one morning and I knew it was time for me to incarnate into Earth, because the spirits from the ice field were rising. This was during World War II. And I could see the mushroom clouds of the atomic bombs rising. Now, I was born March 4th, 1944, and the bombs were dropped in August of 1946. That's a 2-year difference. At any rate, I left my home, my celestial home, and I walked 2 complete circles on the loft. Now, I know you don't know what the loft means, but this is called precession. Now, the Earth wobbles like a spinning top as it revolves around the sun. And the axis of the Earth traces a circle in the sky. It points to the North Star and it traces a circle in the sky. And for it to start at one point and reach the other one is a precession cycle. And the current precession cycle is 26,000 years. But the precession cycle before that was during the Ice Ages, and it was 260,000 years. Okay, that's the larger circle. Okay. I walked the 2 circles. I looked down at the 2 mushroom clouds, and I dived into them. And the veil dropped. I had no memory of my celestial home. The next thing I knew, I was sitting in the living room looking at a magazine. Now, it had to be before I started kindergarten. I don't know how that was. And I was looking at either a Look magazine or Life magazine. And I saw pictures of prisoners in the Nazi concentration camps. And I knew I was in hell. Now, in order to get out of hell and return to my celestial home, I had to figure out my identity, who I am, where I came from, why I'm here, what my purpose is, and achieve my purpose. Now, my purpose is to expand knowledge and understanding of God and creation. So, where do we begin? Start at the beginning. But what is the beginning? They say God is eternal. God is from everlasting to everlasting. So what is the beginning? I guess you have to just pick a point. Now, modern science says that creation began 14,700,000,000 years ago. Look at that number. That's a huge number. But at the same time, modern science says that 20,000 years ago, I have to write this down. 20,000 years ago, billion years ago, hydrogen, helium, lithium, beryllium, and boron, the first 5 chemical elements, were in existence. And at the same time, they say life began 14.7 billion years ago. So in essence, modern science states that a form of life or being existed before creation began. And just like current people, that being was composed of chemical atoms. But they were different chemical atoms. They were the first 5 chemical atoms. Now, ancient writings, those from Egypt, Sumeria, Greece, all state the first beings were beings of light. So therefore, that would fit this description, beings of light, different chemical atoms. They were a different race. Now, Egyptian and Sumerian writings, and those from Mali, Africa, state that the universe came into existence. Before the universe came into existence, it already existed in the mind of God. Now, the Bible also states the same thing. It says that before the universe was created, it existed in the mind of God. That would be Proverbs 8:22-30. Now, the Bible also says, in the beginning, God created the heaven and the earth. And the earth was void and without form. Now, what does that mean? What does it mean to say void and without form? Well, it sounds like a lot of dirt and chemical elements swirling or drifting around until they just massed up and became a solid ball and formed the earth. Now, Genesis 1:4 says, or 1:4 says, and God said, let there be light, and there was light. Now, Albert Einstein based his quantum theory and his theories of relativity on the fact that everything, all matter, behaves as if it's composed of solidified light. Now, this was my chemistry textbook, high school chemistry textbook. And this says the same thing in there. It says that light behaves like that matter shows the same behavior as light, acts as though it's composed of light. Now, Egyptian Pharaoh Akhenaten and Queen Nefertiti, I'm sure most of you have heard of Nefertiti, they ruled Egypt 3,325 years ago. And artwork from their capital shows the sun with these little hands. And it holds 2 ankhs here and here. You see all the little hands? And that's to symbolize the fact that the sun is a creator. It creates life. Just think about it. Without that sun, there'd be no life on earth. Yet the sun is not the supreme creator. But yet, the supreme creator creates the sun. Okay, now, this is a periodic chart, and it's a listing of all chemical elements. And everybody's familiar with chemical elements. We all think, most people think of chemistry and go, oh, I don't understand it. You do. Everybody knows H2O, hydrogen, 2 hydrogens and 1 oxygen is water. Everybody knows they need oxygen. If you don't get some oxygen, you can't breathe. Everybody knows table salt is sodium chloride. You know nickel, gold, copper, mercury, silver, iron, neon lights, carbon. You know about chemical atoms. Okay, but now look, each one, 1, 2, 3, 4, has they're so orderly. Now that number is based on the number of protons in the nucleus. Now the main thing I want you to see here is that all the atoms are here, and see how orderly and precise nature is. I mean, it's just fabulous. It's amazing. So, okay, let's put this aside and come back to that. Okay, now all the natural elements of the earth are present in the sun, but they're all in a gaseous form. There are no solids or liquids in the sun because the temperature is too high. Now hydrogen is the first chemical element. It's the lightest and simplest of all chemical elements. Now most scientists theorize that the primeval atom was the first primeval atom was the first atom of hydrogen. Now Egyptians worshipped Aton or Atom as the seed or primeval atom from which the universe grew. And the people who translate Egyptian myths, well, they like to degrade the Egyptians and make fun of them, and they don't realize the deep abstract science is there. At any rate, they translated to say that Atom masturbated to form the other elements or the other gods.